Dylan Butler.
What's up, guys?
It is Nick. It is John. And obviously, you can tell I am in the mountains this week, as you can tell by the background with the outline of the. And I just realized this as I look over my head. There's an outline of a moose that is like the edge of a lake. So it's like the outline of a moose that creates the outline of a lake with trees and things. And so I didn't realize that until I just started looking at this thing behind me. So, but now, Dylan, we were getting into the discussion this morning as Bart Keeler will join us to talk about the M&T coming up at the bottom of the hour. Oh, first off, what's the mug?
Oh, we're going dad today.
Okay, so there he is.
There we go.
The nutritional facts of dad. When it comes to Atlanta United specifically, there's I don't know if you can call it lukewarm or whatever temperature you want. Now Thiago Almada is now being discussed about going to Serie A, and Nick being the information Serie A was kind of breaking things down, and the fact that you're looking at a player heading to Serie A, probably as a part of the discussion we get into transfer windows. The fact that we're having discussions about $30 million, $35 million transfer fees and things like that, and it's where MLS has grown to, and that's kind of been what we've been talking about. A destination for players coming inbound that want to improve, and also now outbound over the last couple of years where Atlanta United's led the way in transfer fees, where this MLS 3.0, I think this could be a very, rather impactful transfer window to discuss MLS 3.0.
I think huge in both ways, right? Obviously the everything will be centered around Lionel Messi coming here, but with his arrival comes added interest and new rumors and all that sort. Miami suddenly becoming, Barcelona, South Beach, it appears from all the rumors. But for the outbounds, 100%. And look, I think Atlanta deserves a ton of respect, because whatever number you put Miggy Almiron in, like whether that was 2.0 or 2.5 or what have you, they set the bar in terms of this whole bringing in the young players, giving them a chance to grow and develop their game, and then selling them off for millions. And obviously Miggy going to Newcastle, a club close to my heart. Yeah, this that started the ball rolling for a lot of other teams, and we've seen it with NYCFC, and their players. We've seen it. Alphonso Davies with Vancouver. He was a homegrown, a little bit different, but 100%. I think this is why it's becoming such a destination league for those younger players to realize, like, if I want to get from where I am to get to one of the major leagues in Europe, this is a great spot on that rung of the ladder to get there.
Nick Alifi for Dylan Butler.
Yeah, I agree, and I think because when we talk about like the tier 1A player that's going to leave like a River Plate or a Boca and go directly to Europe, that pool is not extraordinarily large, and there's a lot of like 1B players who are very, very good but not quite in a position to make that immediate jump. The MLS is perfect for them, and Messi coming here now makes it where it's okay for a lot of these players to be like, well, hell, Messi's in this league. I mean, obviously I can go there and play. I mean, that's a great thing, right? I think it's going to open the eyes of a lot of agents, especially. I mean, players are one thing, but a lot of players are going to listen to their agents. If their agents say, hey, look, I'm putting you in the same league as Lionel Messi, that's going to open a lot of conversation doors for agents and players. And then the teams themselves in Europe are going to have to start looking over here as well. And as the economics, COVID really pulled the curtain back on the economics of big time football and showed that these margins that they're running on are extraordinarily slim outside of a very, very select few teams. and they're going to start fishing in different waters now. I mean, you see Milan, that was a giant, right? And they're talking about like, well, I don't know if we really want to spend 30 million on a player. And where are they going to shop now? They're going to shop in the same waters as MLS, and they're going to shop MLS at some point as well. So, this is MLS, 3.0, if you want to apply a number to it, simply because of Messi's arrival. It's a conversation starter, it's a door opener. And when Messi says, yeah, I'm going to enter Miami, he's not just opening the door, he's like kicking it down like the SWAT team. And it's as some of his buddies come and join him there, these conversations that we're all going to have are going to be very, very interesting going forward.
I think Dylan agrees with you. I mean, it's Dylan. It's been now that Nick has brought Messi and Friends to the floor as a conversation piece.
Is that the new show that they're going to have too, Messi and Friends?
Well, that if it's just as impactful as the Messi and Friends tour that he had, where folks spent thousands of dollars to go see him at Soldier Field to get a meet and greet, and all they got was the match and like Messi blowing through the door on the way out.
Well, yeah. Messi got he provided an assist to like a former college player that I think is like was something of note during that particular game as well.
Yes, right. Exactly. You look at Messi and Friends, Dylan. Obviously, Inter Miami at the bottom of the table in the East. They need a lot of help, and they need a manager. The deal, by the way, as far as I know, is still not completely completed.
There's so many. There's so many different aspects to it. Yeah, I mean, it's going to take a while to go through it with a fine-tooth comb and put the initials on every little part of that, because there's so many, right? There's Adidas, there's Apple TV, there's the league, there's Inter Miami. There's so many different parts.
Have we reached NIL deals now for Major League Soccer? Because considering where we are when it comes to the constraints that currently are in salary structures for Major League Soccer, where this is the first NIL deal, I think, where you're having corporate partners be pieces and parts as the supplement to whatever you're going to pay Messi, which I imagine will be more than what Chicago's paying Xherdan Shaqiri just on principle at a little over 8.4. But you're right now, unless things change, and we'll get into that, I guess, subsequently, you're going to have to be real imaginative if you want to bring in superstars like this. And right now, Inter Miami is doing that.
Yeah, you're right. You have to in the current structure, and they're going to have to be even more creative should the Friends portion of the Messi and Friends come as well, right? So it's going to be one of those where is a Jordi Alba going to like make $100,000 and yet suddenly there's 30 million in sponsorships? It is interesting sort of how these things will be put together. That is for sure. But this is what I think the wheels were in motion with with Apple TV, and now there's that worldwide reach. Messi now obviously further elevates the whole microscope on the league, and I mean, in a piece that I wrote for OSDB, I mean,
there you
go. Everyone has used the word. I'm not, it's nothing new for me to say, but just it's a transformational move, right, for this league. There is nothing previous to it. You can make the argument of Beckham, and obviously, if you go back in the Kevin Bacon sort of way, right? Like Beckham does open the door for this to happen, right? Like his entrance to the league gets the whole DP thing moving, and the thought of a global superstar coming here. But and obviously, with him being in Miami because of his own extra bits on his contract. But yeah, I mean, this year is absolutely like no other in Major League Soccer. That is for sure.
Nick, go for it.
I think that I'm old enough to have been a part of the David Beckham, year one world tour that took place. And I went to Frisco, Texas for FC Dallas game versus LA Galaxy. And it was Beckham's first time there. And it was like a concert environment. I mean, the whole crowd, was nuts. And I was fortunate enough to be sitting right next to the Hunts box. And they were, because this is what happens. My ex-wife's aunt was a county commissioner for Plano, Texas, and so had access to the county box. And so she was like, I don't really care about soccer, but I know you do. You want to come watch a game? Sure. And so I'm sitting there. Next thing I know, I'm next to one of the Hunts. And I'm like, wait. They're like, so is this a normal crowd? He's like, no, this is a little bit larger than we normally get. The crowd's a little more raucous than we normally get. But it was a transformative moment for the league. And, but the difference is with this, there are kids in Botswana who are going to know who Inter Miami is. There are kids in Singapore who are going to know who Inter Miami is. There are going to be kids in Mongolia who know who Inter Miami is. And that's what a move like this does. And I think the NIL, because I mean, I don't really know how else to classify it, is probably the best move for MLS going forward, because the old NASL days, you had two teams that had all the money. The rest of the teams really languished as a result. So the salary cap needs to stay in place, I think, because it's one of the most exciting leagues in the world from a parity standpoint. Anybody can jump up and, grab the ring. It's not like everywhere else where you have two or three teams competing nonstop for the title. But if a player says, hey, I want to come to Atlanta or Seattle, and, if it goes Seattle, hey, look, Microsoft, we want to get this player in, this is something that this guy's really into gaming and technology and all this stuff. Why don't you guys, talk amongst yourselves? We're going to leave the room. But all you have to do is help facilitate the meeting. All of the clubs that MLS occupies, or that occupy MLS at this point, are taking place in large DMAs, right? Large markets, largely, that should have no problem facilitating these kind of meetings. And, for all these other players who are like, well, where's my money? Where's my sponsorship? Get better and make yourself more marketable. This is going to require everyone to step up and improve themselves. And we don't necessarily have to say, okay, we're going to have, 5, 6, 7 DPs on the field at a time. If somebody can go and get that NIL deal, for lack of a better term, we could put governance around it, just like they do for college, and say, all right, you have an NIL deal for the length of the contract, outside of behavior clause, it's guaranteed, right? And you sign the deal. That's kind of the deal that takes place. That's how it has to be done. And there are places and people who will do it, I think.
Piggybacking off your Beckham memory, I was at the game at Giant Stadium, that incredible, I believe it was 5-4 game with the Red Bulls and Galaxy, where Beckham does his thing. He's booed at the corner flag, right? Like in typical New York, New Jersey fashion, right? Like every time he touches the ball, he's getting booed. And I remember Juan Pablo Angel scoring the winner late, Josie out the door. It was like his big early moment in his career, like his coming out party. There was something like 75,000 fans there. Like it was such an incredible. I still remember, like, I was there, but then, you would always see the replays on the old Fox Soccer channel with Max Bretos doing the call. Like it was a scene, that is for sure. And the press conference, the Beckham press conference was separate than the other press conferences. And that happened maybe about an hour or so after the game, hour and a half, out in the old Giants and Jets training bubble outside of the stadium. So it was certainly a long night in East Rutherford that night, but it was a lot of fun.
And just think about where we're going to be with that. Where we're going to be with it. With Messi, it's going to be absurd. It's going to be absolutely absurd. And I think that this needs to be the kick. And John, I'm sorry, I think I was interrupting you. They're taking off, but I think this is the time for MLS to grab a hold of these teams. And I await the hate mail that's going to come my way from this. but to grab the teams like Philadelphia and San Jose and some of these other teams and that are perennially low spenders and say
you throw the Red Bulls in that mix too, Nick.
Red Bulls, yeah, and say, look, it's time for you to elevate your game or get out, because we don't need teams that are, hey, we're going to use just a strictly metrics-based approach, and we're going to sign like the Division III water boy to come in and be our starting seven. No, it's time to really invest in resources, not just player acquisition, your academies, to build out your facilities, your training facilities. There's no reason at all why every team shouldn't have what LAFC from a training ground has, what Atlanta United has from a training ground, what FC Dallas has from an academy standpoint. There's no reason at all with a player like Lionel Messi coming in this league why you cannot have the top end facilities. And if you don't want that, get out, go buy yourself a USL lower division club and still be a part of the sport, help grow the sport. That's fine, but don't be a part of the top tier in this country.
So, John, you want to direct the folks where to email Nick?
Well, the Twitch pitch will be fired up as well. They know how to get in touch with Nick on the Twitters. So is this, do you think, to Nick's point, is this the siren call to figure out, okay, which owners are serious about going to MLS 4.0, or is this just another part of, okay, yeah, we get it, y'all can hang out if you want, but is this that call to sit there and it's like, all right, what we're going to do is we're going to have a ceiling cap, we're going to have a ceiling floor. Who wants to invest can invest, and if you don't, we'll find out who's serious, and then we'll figure it all out. Where do you think this is?
I think it's a combination. Yes, it's a large part of Messi's arrival, but also this coincides with Leagues Cup, right? And obviously, all the talk here, whether it was the Champions League or even internationally, is about U.S. and Mexico and where are we and where do we stand, and league wise, are we gaining ground on Mexico? Well, here's the thing, right? Like, Mexican teams spend significantly more on their roster than MLS teams. So if you want to get to that point, and I think Steve Cherundolo said that pretty eloquently in his post-match press conference after they lost in the CCL final, like, you've got to raise that limit, right? Like, you've got to be able to have, players 20 to 25 still making a good amount of money, right? Like, it can't be just your top 4 or 5 players. So I don't think the league goes into I don't think MLS goes into a Leagues Cup thing where all of your teams are playing all of their team. Like, I don't think they go into it blindly, not thinking about, like, they don't want to get embarrassed, obviously, right? Like, so you don't want to have a Final Four of all Mexican teams. You don't want 2 Mexican teams in the final. So I think I have no inside knowledge on this, but I'd imagine something of a new salary structure is on the horizon, because you don't enter competitions like this with an unfair, salary structure.
Yeah, and I think to Dylan's point, the main issue has not been the stars, right? The main issue has been the middle of the roster,
right? Where
teams have been exposed in these situations. So that's why I say I don't think like a 4th or 5th DP is really the answer. I think a general raised cap that allows teams to heavily invest in the middle of the roster, and that's going to make you more competitive, because if really right now MLS teams have been fighting in CONCACAF Champions League with one arm tied behind their back, and that we've had some teams like Toronto and Seattle really put the heat to Liga MX teams. I mean, that's really saying something here. But we have to address the middle of the roster, and especially if, because I'm sure everyone else has seen the rumor as well, and the rumors are rumors, but that it was even generally tossed out there that MLS clubs could be invited to Libertadores.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, brother, if you're, I watch Libertadores. I know John watches Libertadores. Dylan, I'm imagining you do as well.
Yeah.
That is a different tournament. You're going to really need the middle of that roster built out if you want to compete in any of these. So, that's to me, that's where the investment really needs to come in.
Could you imagine, Dylan, the first exposure that MLS teams have in the Copa Libertadores to the crowds, to the officiating? I mean, if they thought CONCACAF Champions League, for those that get into CCL, is one thing, what's it going to be like when these clubs get into Copa Libertadores, allegedly, possibly, probably, maybe, perhaps? Going into
it harkens me back to the whole, Toronto, the tunnel, all the tunnel incidents. Like, that's nothing compared to potential tunnel incidents and touchline incidents there, man. That is a whole different animal.
Well, no, because I remember that. Was it Newell's where they were playing somewhere and Newell's was being beaten by like a third division team or something, and like the fans went nuts, ripped a hole in the fence and threw a toilet on the field. I mean, like this is a different ball game, and I think that it would be great for Argentina, not just Argentina, but a lot of these South American clubs to have an opportunity to play, MLS teams, not from a competitive standpoint, but really to say, hey, look, see our number 8 over there? He's really good, huh? You wanna put in a little transfer bid?
Colombian teams.
Yes.
Teams. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, actually, yeah. Just
all of the recruiting that could be going on by Major League Soccer playing in Copa Libertadores. I mean, those of us who are like part of the Sickos committee who would be watching RSL playing Almirante Brown, I mean, we'd be sitting there and we'd be digging it. We said, "Oh, okay, yeah, we'll take that dude and that dude and that dude." Literally,
so then LAFC will play 95 games that season.
Right.
Yes. and LAFC 2 and MLS Next Pro will probably only win one match.
And that's but the schedule congestion is a thing that's having to be addressed all around the world. So it's a matter of the MLS is going to be dealing with the same thing as the dollars start pouring in. Do you think Stan Kroenke's really going to turn down the opportunity to make an extra buck by sending one of his teams to Oh my God, he's please, yeah, absolutely. I completely endorse this sending our teams to South America for this tournament. That's one thing about our system is that all the people who I think a vast 90+% of the owners of MLS teams are all billionaires, right? And the one thing they love to do is make an extra dollar. Why have $1 when you can have 10? So they're going to take every opportunity to make that money, but they're also going to make sure they hedge their bets and reduce their risk exposure. So that's where the NIL type deals come in. That's where, maintaining a cap and a floor, I think is critical for this league. And, a lot of these guys are deal makers. And if you possess the resources and ability to outfit your team in insane ways, by doing these NIL type deals, hey, amen. Have at it. I think, look, Paul McDonough's going to be looking back like, well, why was it wrong when I was doing it? Now it's okay for everyone else. It's like, hey, look, man, the game changes, the situations change. We're not talking about paying people. It's like the old days in college football where we had the bag man handing off cash to recruits. Yeah, $100 handshakes and the liners removed from team bags and replaced with cash. I mean, but now we're just putting it out in the open. Let's make it so it's out in the open and everyone can be a part of the process, and players have the ability to make the kind of money they want to make. I'm not concerned about the Saudis trying to offer these insane deals. I would rather have these kind of NIL deals for players who are 21, 22, 23 years old, who we can then sell and make a ton of cash in the process, help those kids achieve their dreams and help us put stars above crest. I think that's a win-win for everybody.
Help me, help you. NIL. Question from Jason Nix. wrapping up with Dylan Butler. Does FFP take stuff like that into consideration, meaning an NIL-esque model? Or is that even a thing in Europe? Teams hiding endorsements.
It is a thing. It is a thing in there, but it's more governance on how the team is involved. The rules. It's been a minute since I've looked through the legalities of financial fair play, but there are ways to sort of skirt it, but the team cannot be involved. So the team would not be the one facilitating the meeting. So like if an owner for Reading had a company, a subsidiary of one of their main orgs, and funneling money to a player, that would be out of the question. But if some other team or some other company rather cut an endorsement deal, that would be, as long as the team is not involved in any way, shape, or form, and it can be proven.
Okay, so that's the difference. Dylan, what's going on with OSDB and MLSsoccer.com?
Will OSDB Sports will this week we'll dive into kind of a viewer's guide to the Leagues Cup for those who are who don't know about it or are new to the idea. So we'll break down some of the top players to watch, games to watch, teams to watch. And then in the weeks that follow now, I think about a 4-week countdown, we'll get into the Women's World Cup and talk about the key players there and teams and key matchups there. And for MLS, we keep on keeping on, right? Like it's not as hectic a match week this week, but still some matches to keep an eye out for. And of course, Nations League as well, coming up tomorrow. So
yes.
Big doubleheader there as well. So I'll be on for those as well.
Well, and as always, my friend, Varsity Media on the YouTubes. Even if there's nothing live going on in the high school game, it is. You can always go back and watch Dylan on Varsity Media on YouTube as well. A man after my own heart. Dylan, as always, great to catch up with you, my friend, and we will catch up with you again next time around on a Wall Pass Wednesday.
Yeah. Cheers, guys. Appreciate it.